You are welcome. This is the Messiah Revelation Ministry, a prophetic end time ministry dedicated to end time events. The Messiah is coming, and we need to protect our eternal heritage. We are strangers in the world. Wherever we are, wherever you are a stranger in the land. If you are a chosen of God, the world is a strange world. You are a pilgrim in this world. You need to protect your eternal identity and your heritage in the kingdom of the Messiah that is coming soon. And today we are looking at how the Hebrew Israelites protected their identity. We are looking at what the ancestors did, and we'll look at Abraham and we'll look at Jacob and the lessons that they give to you as you protect your citizenship. I'm talking about your eternal citizenship. And for us to do that, we go straight to the book of Genesis chapter 47, and we are looking at verse 9. And Genesis chapter 47, verse 9 is the story of Jacob as Jacob went to Egypt at the invitation of Joseph. And Joseph introduced Jacob to Pharaoh, and there was conversation that went on that is recorded in the Bible, Genesis chapter 47, verse 8. And Pharaoh said unto Jacob, how old art thou? Pharaoh of Egypt is asking Jacob, the Israelites, how old are you, Mr. Jacob? And Jacob, the Hebrew, answered, the Pharaoh of Egypt, the land of bondage. And so we're looking at Genesis chapter 47, verse 9. And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have the days of the years of my life been, and have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. And you hear Jacob talking about the days of his pilgrimage. He's talking about his age, his life in this world, 130 years. And so he's talking about his pilgrimage. Joseph, Jacob, and the Hebrews, they knew that they were not from Egypt. They were not from the land of bondage. They had a promised land. And as long as they were in Egypt, as long as they were in the world, they look at their heritage, they look at their land that was promised to them by Elohim. They were not aware how long they will stay in Egypt, but they considered themselves as sojourners in Egypt, the land of bondage. They were not part of Egypt. They were not citizens of Egypt. They were there as pilgrims. They were there on pilgrimage. They were in Egypt as pilgrims, and they were sojourners. And this is what Jacob told Pharaoh. The days of my pilgrimage in the world is 130 years. I'm 130 years. I'm a pilgrim in this world. Heaven is my home. And the Lord will wrestle with me and show me his home. And one day I will go to his home. And so when Jacob died in Egypt, the land of bondage, he instructed his children before he died to take his bones away from Egypt. He was not a citizen of Egypt, a land of bondage. He was a citizen of a land that was promised to him and his descendants by Elohim. the Almighty, the God of Israel. And later on, the Lord also told his people that I deliver you from the land of bondage, and you were sojourners in the land of bondage. But there's a land that I have promised to you, and you will inherit the land. That prophecy was given to Abraham even before the children of Abraham, the descendants of Abraham, went to be pilgrims in foreign lands, to be strangers in foreign lands. And here we look at what the Lord told Abraham in Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. And he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And so the Lord here was warning Abraham that his descendants will be in a strange land. They will be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they will be there for 400 years. And so here the Lord was reminding Abraham, was telling Abraham that a time will come, your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not their own, who are strangers in a foreign land. As we are talking about the Hebrew Israelites, who are strangers in a foreign land. Fast forward, you know what happened to the Hebrew Israelites when Jerusalem was finally destroyed by the Gentiles. The Israelites had been in foreign lands, and they were not citizens of those lands. I'm talking about Assyria, talking about Babylon. They were not citizens of those countries. They were pilgrims in a strange land. After Jerusalem was destroyed in AD 70, the Hebrew Israelites were pilgrims in foreign lands. They were scattered to fulfill prophecy, and through the Atlantic slave trade, Hebrew Israelites became strangers in a foreign land. And I will use the Hebrew Israelites in United States to make a point. You are aware that the Hebrew Israelites were reminded of their identity. They were told in point blank, in black and white letters in their constitution, that they were strangers in a strange land, a foreign land. Of course, that is prophetic because the Lord had already warned Abraham that his descendants will be strangers in a land that is not their own for a prophetic period, 400 years. And so something happened in 1857 in the United States where a slave, Dred Scott, he sued to protect, quote unquote, his citizenship in America. And you know the story, the case of Dred Scott. The Supreme Court of the United States made a ruling that a slave, an African descendant, a descendant of an African, a slave, is not a citizen of the United States. And so a slave, whether you are free or you are still a slave, could not be a citizen of the United States. The Hebrew Israelites were actually strangers in a strange country in a foreign land. Of course, that was fulfillment of prophecy, as the Lord revealed that prophecy, that the descendants of Abraham will be strangers in a foreign land, as recorded in Genesis chapter 15, verses 13. So Dred Scott, he sued. He sued and he lost the suit. The Supreme Court of the United States ruled that Dred Scott did not have a locus because he could not be a citizen of the United States. Even though he was born in the United States, he could not be a citizen of the United States because he was a slave. He was an African. Of course, he was a Hebrew Israelite, and he was a sojourner in a foreign land, a strange land, a land of bondage, um, a land of Egypt. And he was not counted as a citizen of the United States. And before then, and even afterwards, his descendants were not regarded as citizens of the United States, and they were not accorded the privileges of a citizen of the United States. In addition to Dred Scott decision 1857, you also have the case of Plessy versus Ferguson, decided in 1896. And those who are aware of American history, that case articulated the famous doctrine as separate but equal. Under the doctrine of separate but equal, blacks and white, they were treated differently. They could not enjoy the same rights and privileges. They could not attend the same schools. They could not even drink from the same drinking fountain. They could not board the same transportation. They could not be in the same hotel. And you remember the consequences of that. For 60 years, the Supreme Court of the United States endorsed the racist doctrine of separate but equal, coercing and also acquiescing and also endorsing a policy of segregation based upon the separate but equal doctrine articulated in Plessy versus Ferguson, decided in 1896. For 60 years, the separate but equal doctrine became the cornerstones of Americans' constitutional law regarding segregation, regarding the treatment of the Hebrews who were considered as strangers in a strange land. They were not regarded as citizens of the United States, and they actually were not accorded the privileges of a citizen of the United States. You are aware that even though slavery was abolished, slave trade was abolished, it took a civil war in America to protect the rights of the Hebrew Israelites who were taken against their will to the United States. And even with the Civil War and even with the Emancipation Proclamation, it took the amendments, the 13th Amendment and the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States to ratify the issue of whether an African who was taken against his will to America will be a citizen of the United States. As we are talking about this, we need to also factor in the recent debate regarding birthright citizenship in United States, and the issue of birthright citizenship cannot be discussed without looking at the condition of the Hebrew Israelites who were taken to America, who were not considered as citizens of America per the decision of Dred Scott, 1857, and it took the 13th and the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution to grant citizenship to the Hebrew Israelites who were born in America. And as we are talking about it, the issue is a prophetic issue, it's a prophetic question. Are you a citizen of Egypt, or are you a citizen of a land that is promised by your Lord and your King and your Yahweh? And so we go back to um, Genesis chapter 47, verse 9. Jacob told Pharaoh, I am a pilgrim in your land. I am 30 years old and I have been a pilgrim in the world for 130 years. And I'm not a citizen of Egypt. I am a stranger. I am a pilgrim. And when I die, my bones should be taken out of Egypt, and my bones should be buried in the land that the Lord promised to me and my descendants. The Lord promised a land to me. The Lord promised a heritage to me, and in my death, my bones should be buried in the land that Elohim promised to me and my ancestors. And the Bible, Hebrews 11, talks about the faith that the ancestors had, Abraham and Jacob, as you read the book of Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 11. And here we are reading Hebrews chapter 11, verse 9. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. So, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 9 is saying that by faith, Abraham had faith. He had faith in the Lord, Yahweh, because Yahweh had covenanted with him that a land will be given to him and his ancestors will enjoy the land. A promise was given to him. And so Hebrew 9 verse 11 is talking about the faith that Abraham had in Elohim. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. The promise that the Lord gave to Abraham was also a promise to Isaac and Jacob, and is a promise to the Hebrew Israelites who are living in strange lands, the iron lands of the sea, scattered in the four corners of the earth. And you have to use Abraham as your model. Abraham, who was given the promise, is reported to have sojourned in the land of the promise, like in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles. He was dwelling in tabernacles. He was very humble. He was not dwelling in skyscrapers, in towers, in multi-story buildings. He was humble. He was dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, who are heirs to the promise that the Lord gave to Abraham. Why would Abraham do that? Why would he even live like a stranger, even in the land that was promised to him? And why will he live in tabernacles? Why will he live in a humble way, live a humble lifestyle, living in tabernacles, in tents, in the land that was promised to him? Hebrews chapter 11, verse 10 gives us the answer why Abraham behaved the way that he behaved, and why Jacob behaved the way that he behaved, and why they did not consider themselves as citizens of this world, why they consider themselves as pilgrims in this world. Hebrews 11 verse 10. For he looked for a city which have foundations, whose builder and maker is God. So Hebrews chapter 11 is talking about the men of faith, and he's using Abraham as an example, the one who had the promise of Elohim, but he lived as a sojourner in the promised land, living in um, living in tents, living in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, because he looked for a land, he looked for a promised land. And he described the land which have foundations, whose builder and maker is God. If you're a Hebrew Israelite, you are a pilgrim in this world, and you should not focus on your location. You should focus on your destiny. You should not focus on the citizenship of the nation that you are living in. You may live in a promised land on earth. You may live in a land of bondage. Remember that there is a land that has a foundation built by God Himself, and that is the eternal destination, and that's what Abraham was looking for. Abraham looked for a city which have foundations, whose builder and maker is God. He's not looking for citizenship in any place, and he was not concerned about where he was located, because he considered himself as a sojourner. Jacob considered himself as a sojourner, as a pilgrim in Egypt, and he told Pharaoh that he was a pilgrim in Egypt. It's a lesson for us as we wait for the time when the Messiah will come, and there's a covenant, and there's a prophecy on the Hebrew Israelites, and they are rejected over the world. They are fighting over citizenship, even in the land of bondage. And people are making a lot of noise about birthright citizenship in the United States, whether it is applicable to people, whether it's not applicable to people, whether they will lose their birthright citizenship or not. But I'm here to tell you that Abraham is your model, Jacob is your model. Abraham looked for a city which have foundation, whose builder and maker is God. The Hebrew Israelites will be gathered from wherever they are, based upon the prophecies, including Ezekiel 11, verse 17. And they will possess their land, and they will inherit the new Jerusalem. As you are in this world, you have to make a decision, and the decision should be based upon your heritage. The decision should be based upon the promise that the Lord has given you. He will gather you, and you will have inheritance in His kingdom. And you are reminded that you are a pilgrim in this world. Do not worry about your location. Do not worry about the citizenship of the nations that are in the world, because you are looking for an eternal citizenship, a passport to the kingdom of the Messiah that is coming. That kingdom is everlasting kingdom, and nobody can take that citizenship away from you. That citizenship cannot be revoked because Jerusalem, the new Jerusalem, is a city that has foundation, because the builder and maker is Elohim, who has promised you, that he will give you a new covenant, and he will give you eternal inheritance, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possession. Your possession is not where you are. It is not where you are located now. You must aim high, and you must put your eyes on the prize, the eternal kingdom of the Messiah. That is where you claim your citizenship. So don't worry about any discussion about citizenship, birthright citizenship of any other country, or citizenship that can be given as a result of privilege or immunities. You have to have your eyes on the prize, eternal citizenship in the kingdom of the Messiah that is coming, and you will enjoy all the benefits and the privileges appertaining to the citizenship that will not last. It will be eternal, and it will be in the city whose maker and builder is the Lord Almighty Yahweh, who has promised you that you will have eternal inheritance. Thank you very much. My email is raptureafrica@yahoo.com. I'm leaving it in the description box. Thank you.